Domestic violence is often associated with other social issues such as drug and alcohol issues, unemployment, other areas of social dysfunction. So I suppose what that is reflecting is that those issues exist in our communities in Western New South Wales. Unfortunately, those issues are particularly relevant in Indigenous communities, and of course in Western New South Wales we have high populations of Indigenous residents. I suppose it's also important to realise how those statistics work. So when we talk about rates of reporting, we're talking about rates per 100,000 persons within a community. Now, a lot of communities, obviously in the West, are a lot smaller than that, and it can result in a distortion of the statistics. And that's acknowledged by the Bureau of Crime Statistics, because they cut off the reporting on communities that have populations of less than 3,000 residents. That's not to acknowledge that there aren't some really big issues, with domestic violence in the West. I was previously held the position of Crime Manager at Darling River Local Area Command, which is Bourke, which has the highest rates of reporting in New South Wales and has done for many years. And it's a real challenge out there, the issues that not only police but the whole community contends with. Often it's associated with social issues. And that's not always the case. We do see domestic violence in affluent communities. Probably don't see the same rates of reporting, but we certainly do experience it. But practically speaking, yes, there are higher rates of reporting in areas that have higher rates of unemployment, higher rates of crime generally, of drug, alcohol abuse, those types of issues. So what that's reflecting is that those communities are experiencing those issues as well. From a police tactical standpoint, I would say to let us know about it so we can respond, we can take action. Obviously, we treat domestic violence as a crime, so we can take action in response to that crime, but we can also support the victims, not only the primary victims but also the secondary victims. Often when we go to these things, children are exposed to these incidents as well, so we can ensure that other agencies who respond to those types of issues are aware and can do so. So let us know about it, but I suppose from a broader strategic perspective, it's about creating more harmonious communities. Police are a part of that, but so are social workers, government, health, education. It's a whole sort of community response. I mentioned my experience in Bourke before, and in those communities in the far west of the state, unfortunately, there's often a lot more police within those communities than there are social workers. And I don't know if as a society we've got those proportions right, and if we're tackling the issues from the right perspective. Is that over the years the police response to domestic violence has become much more comprehensive, and it's fair to say that we treat it much more seriously these days than perhaps we once did. We acknowledge that, for instance, 40% of homicides are domestic related, so it's very important for us to have that comprehensive response to domestic violence incidents, and we do that for a range of things, not only with the police, the initial responders, but also other areas within our organisation that provide support to victims. We have evolved a lot, but it's also pleasing to see that other areas are evolving in their response to domestic violence. For instance, the judicial system. We've seen this year new laws brought in that have changed the way that victims of domestic violence can give their evidence before a court, which really assists us and supports victims during their, I suppose, exposure to the criminal justice system. We've also been given the power to, in recent times, to make our own apprehended violence orders. So when responding to an incident of domestic violence, a lot of research has shown that the primary thing is to take decisive action and to remove who we perceive to be the offender from the situation. That empowers the victim to do certain things. So we now have the power, when we go to a domestic violence incident, to issue an order that's binding until the involved persons appear before a court, that will restrict contact, which will make it unlawful for them to engage in certain types of behaviours. Now, once upon a time we had to go through a court to get those orders, but now a sergeant of police can do it. It saves us a lot of time, and it means that we can be a lot more effective.